Okay, let's talk about some advantages of web analytics. There are some very obvious, very fundamental advantages that you should understand. The very first thing is understanding your markets, the target market better. Now, with Google Web Analytics, you can understand, like, for example, you have reports like keyword reports, which tells you what type of keywords people type into Google to find your website. And there are reports which explains or which tells you the demographic composition of your website visitors, how many what percentage of visitors are males and females, their geographical locations, and what type of browsers they are using. So all this information become very important for you to understand the nature of the market, the size of the market for a given period, and also the competitor the matrix competitor situation. As I told you in my previous video, there are a whole lot of tools and services available for you to measure and understand the performance of your competitors. Then the second advantage is identify the issues or opportunities for you to improve your website further. Now, when you look at your reports, there are a number of different metrics that you can check on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. Now, there's one good metric called bounce rate, which I will be discussing further in the next couple of slides. Bounce rate means, for example, in simple terms, bounce rate means out of 100 visitors coming to your website on the very first page, whatever the page they come, if they are not clicking through to another page, if they are not going to another page, if they just exit your website after landing on the very first page, that is treated as a bounce. Say, for example, if I come to your website through a product page, you are selling hundreds of products. I found one of the products on Google, clicked on that and came to your website, and for whatever reason I'm not happy with the website or the information or the product or the price or whatever, and I don't click further, I just exit after a couple of seconds. So that is a bounce visitor. If I click through to another page and another page and fourth page and fifth page, then I am a visitor who is actually engaging with your websites, because I have looked at least 5 different pages. So if now in any given website there is a standard certain a percentage that you can accept as an acceptable bounce rate. For example, that could be 40%. If you realize your website has a very high bounce rate, let's say 80%, then you should definitely understand that there is something wrong, because out of 100 people coming to your website, 80 of them are actually exiting your website after the first page view. They are not going further, right? So if you understand that that is an issue, then you have to take actions to resolve that issue, fix that issue. So like, it was just a simple example. Similarly, there are matrix, for example, out of 100 people coming to your product shopping cart, there could be an acceptable rate that they complete the transaction. Let's say 10% of the people who adding products to a cart are actually completing a transaction. If that is the standard rate that you always maintain, on a given day, if you realize that that 10% has dropped to 2%, then you definitely know something has happened. So you need to investigate. It could be a credit card issue that people couldn't complete the transaction. It could be a button issue. People click on buy now button, but it doesn't working. So likewise, there are many different things can happen in an actual business, in a website. So by looking at this matrix on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, you can get a clear understanding of the consistency of the performance of your website. So if there are improvements, you can definitely do. So identifying issues, areas to improve is a really good advantage of web analytics. Better segmentation. Now, in the under the first point I mentioned, you can understand the market. You can understand how many what percentage of visitors are coming from geographical location A, how many visitors are coming from state B, country X, and what is the percentage of male and female, how many visitors are coming from desktop devices against mobile and tablet devices, right? So likewise, you can understand there could be many other very interesting segments as well. People who always buy high value items compared to the people who always buy low value items. What percentage of visitors are repeat visitors to your website? All these things can be tracked, measured, understand, analyzed with web analytics. So you can create different segments within your reports for this, and you can treat these segments differently with your loyalty programs or with your discount programs or with your banner campaigns or the type of products that you display to different segments. You can do so many things if you can segment your visitors this way. The next point, making marketing accountable. What does that mean? Now, when I started this session in my previous video, I clearly told you one of the biggest problems that traditional marketers had with their marketing budgets, marketing campaign, was they spend a huge amount of money, but they don't know which part of the advertising campaign, the budget, is actually driving sales for them. But with Google and with web analytics, for example, it could be Google Analytics or whatever the analytics product you are using, most of them can track the source of visitors. Are they coming from display channels? Are they coming from SEO channels? Are they coming from direct mails, EDMs, or email marketing campaigns? Are they coming from social media, Facebook? Then you can understand what percentage of visitors are coming from Facebook, what percentage of visitors are coming from SEO, what percentage is coming from AdWords, what is their success rate, what is their conversion rate, how much are you spending on for CPC on AdWords compared to the CPC on Facebook, for example. So many different ways that you can measure the effectiveness of these, the performance of these channels. So then you know which channel you have to allocate more money, more budget, which channel you have to withdraw. So you know every dollar, every marketing money, dollar or rupee that you spend on digital channels, their effectiveness. Thereby you can understand or you can make a decision with regard to your future budget allocation. So you know your channels are working, which channels are working. That is what I mean by making marketing accountable. So you know what is working and what is not working. Identifying the trends and forecast the future. So when you have reports on monthly sales or daily sales or weekly sales, visitors and the impressions, number of page views, number of users, the bounce rate, there are certain trends with all these metrics. If you look at your reports, if you check your reports on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, every year you will realize that these numbers are actually going on a particular trend. So if you understand the trend, you can easily forecast. Okay, this year we have actually maintained every month 50,000 visitors, but these 50,000 visitors as an average actually have been growing at a rate of 5%. If that is what your report saying, then you can set a target for your next year. We should try to increase this 5% to 10% average every month. So to get that additional visitors, what type of campaigns, what type of marketing, digital marketing activities you have to do. So you can identify the trends with these reports, and then you can do your forecast based on the numbers you already have access to. So I believe you have a clear idea of the value, the importance, and the advantages of web analytics. Now so far this my session has become just a video session based on slides. What I really want you to do is you need to get into your real Google Analytics reports. If you have a website, set up your Google Analytics reports. Now in your next session with your live classroom session, you'll be learning a lot on setting up your accounts as well, and try to look at these reports and try to analyze the data then only you will understand the advantage properly, and you will find it really, really interesting when you look at this data and when you find something new, something that you didn't know before with your website. Okay, now let's try to understand how web analytics from a technical point of view work. Understanding the way that it works is very, very important for you to set up your Google Analytics properly, or when you have some problem, for you to troubleshoot these issues effectively. So you need to understand how, from a technical point of view, web analytics works. Now, in this case, out of 12, 13 different web analytics tools, services, and types that I discuss, I'm going to discuss the most important, the most popular one, which is the tag-based Google tag-based web analytics solutions. Google Analytics is a tag-based web analytics solution. Now, what does that mean? Now, let's say these are what you can see on your screen at the very, very bottom. These are your website users, visitors. Now, they use their computers, they use their browsers like Chrome or Firefox or Internet Explorer or Safari or Opera or whatever. You know, the most popular web browser at the moment is Chrome. So they are using their web browsers, the machines connected to internet. Now these are the browsers, for example. Now these browsers are actually via internet connecting to the website. Now let's say this is your website. The website is always hosted within a machine, which we call the host, well, the server. The websites are always hosted within a machine, let's say saved in a machine. The machine is also, the server is also connected to the internet. When the browser is making a connection to your web server where the website is hosted, the meaning of that is the browser is requesting a particular page from your website. So your every website has a page URL, unique resource locator. URL means unique resource locator. So every page has a unique URL. So the browser, you type the URL on the browser, you click on a link. Now that link is opening up on your browser. The meaning is the browser is making a request to the server, requesting that page from the server. Now, if the server has the page already with them, server is sending a response to the browser back. When the server responds to the browser, it is actually a file. Page means a file. Now that file is actually loading within this browser. When the file is loaded on the browser, you can see that as a web page. You can see that as a web page on your browser. That is how it technically happens. Now, where does the Google Analytics part come into play now? Now, when you create your website here, let's say you have 10,000 pages, for example, you are normally using a content management system to set up your website. Content management system means that is the program, that is the software you need to set up your website, not necessarily to design your website. You may be designing websites so many different services, tools. Once the website is designed and built, actually the building part is done within the content management system. Now most of the content management systems have an option to add a Google Analytics tag. What is a tag? Tag is like this, what you see on your screen. This is a JavaScript. We call this JavaScript tag, a code, a piece of code, right? A piece of code. Now this code is actually added to all these pages, right? It is a bit of a technical thing. If you are very, very sort of new to this kind of topics, you just try to understand the simple meaning. It's a HTML, sorry, JavaScript code added to all these pages. You can't see on the front end. When you look at the page, you can't see, but the code is actually there in the HTML source, in the back end of the page, right? So this code is added to all these 10,000 pages. Whenever a new page is requested by a user, that page is loaded on the browser. When the page is loading on the browser, the tag that I mentioned here, the tag is getting executed. There is a particular function for that tag. Now, when the page is loading on the browser, the tag is getting executed. The tag is doing a particular function. What the function is, actually, it is transmitting or sending some information to the Google Analytics server through that tag. Now, what kind of information? From where this page is requested, from which geographical location, from which IP address, from which browser. Is it a mobile device? Is it a desktop device, a tablet device? What is the keyword the user typed onto Google? What type of pages is this browser requesting? How long this user was there on this website? Whole lot of information can be transferred, calculated by the information coming from this tag. Now, Google Analytics as a company are actually saving all this information in their servers. And when you, as the website owner, log into your Google Analytics account, now you can see all that information collected by Google Analytics are now presented as in the form of very nice graphs, charts, and tables. So you can run multiple reports, cross segments, and analyze all this information for a given period. It could be an hour, it could be a day, it could be a week, a month, year, any period that you want, because all this information have been actually saved here in your Google Analytics reports. So that is what technically happens. So just to summarize again, this particular JavaScript code, where do you get this code? When you create your free Google Analytics account, it is a free service from Google. When you create your free Google Analytics account, there is a place where you can copy this code. It is unique to your website. Now you can see there is an ID number here. So that ID number is unique to your website. If you have a different website, it will have a different ID number. So that is how they identify all this information separately, uniquely to your website. So this code is basically added to each and every page in your website. When that page is actually loaded on the browser, that code, that JavaScript code, is actually getting executed, or it's doing a particular function that is basically transferring all these tracking information, user information, their behavior, the behavioral information back to Google Analytics servers, where all these reports are compiled and organized. When you log into that, you can easily go through these reports and do lots of very interesting analysis with these reports. So that's how analytics, tag-based analytics like Google Analytics work. Okay, so let's discuss about the success factors, or what defines the success of a website, in our next video.